Well, welcome to Run the Gamut. We have joining us now Gerard Ungerman and Stacey Ware. They are the two
Good morning, Rick.
wonderful people who are associated with this wonderful thing that we're going to talk about, the respectful revolution. I think Stacey needs no introduction. She spent a lot of time here at KZFR as part of our staff.
I did.
And we miss you dearly.
Oh, I miss you too.
We really do. And on the other microphone, Gerard Ungerman. And Gerard is a documentarian. He's been doing filmmaking for many years, and some of his works include Belonging, a Scientific and Spiritual Journey into Humanity's Footprint on the Earth, Confessions of a New York Call Girl, Peru, Between the Hammer and the Anvil, Plan Colombia, Cashing In on the Drug Failure, The Oil Factor, Behind the War on Terror, and perhaps his most important work, Hidden Wars of Desert Storm. Now, these are all documentaries that Gerard has worked on. How long have you been working on documentaries?
I started in 1995, so that's now 17 years. And there's actually it's funny because you listed Belonging first, which is the latest one I had made, and was a transition in the way I work. I've been doing feature-length documentaries for now many years, and always on issues more than people, and looking at problems more than solutions. And with this new project that we're now starting with Stacey, it's really a 160 on many 180 degrees on I'm sorry on many of these on this approach, because now we are doing short vignettes as opposed to feature lengths. We're focusing on people, and we are presenting solutions as opposed to catastrophes.
So a much more positive take on things. And you have spent many, many years really doing a lot of deep investigative work on some nasty things going on in this world. And at what point was it that you decided, I'm headed in the wrong direction here and I need to think more on the positive?
I don't think I was really headed in the wrong direction. I think there's a time for everything. I think we really needed at some point, and one can argue that it probably started in the 60s, late 60s, and has been going on for some time.
Sure.
I think we needed to identify some of the issues that our society may have. We can certainly improve on what we have. There's room for improvement, that's for sure. And I think we've all lived for many years in La La Land, especially if we are on the happy side of money, and didn't really realize, some of what was happening in the backstage of our civilization.
Because God knows we can't rely on our or local media or national media to give us much of this information.
Well, we live in an environment that's entirely tuned towards consumption. That's what it is, And but consumption means burning, and we are consuming the world.
Yeah.
And so long as you don't realize that it's really burning around you because you're shielded, as we are, you don't pay attention. But the thing is, it is burning. It's burning around us, and now the smoke is getting inside the house.
Yeah.
And so I think there was a time where we had to expose all these issues. But by now we know these issues. They're in our face constantly. If you don't see them, if you don't see, child's obesity, if you don't see pollution, if you don't see, the war business, if you don't see, hyper pollution, if you don't see, it's because you don't want to see it.
That's right.
So why should you keep repeating it over and over again when all the information is out there already? I think now we know enough of the problems. Now we need to turn towards solutions, and we need to walk forcefully towards implementing solutions.
You've been to Afghanistan, Iraq, Colombia, Peru, the Arctic. You've been all over the world in some of your research for your documentaries. Your work with Respectful Revolution is a lot closer to home here in the United States.
I think global act local.
Sure.
I like this expression. I think it encapsulates a bit, how we should think of the world and think of ourselves with our responsibilities, our duties, and our actions. And so that's where we are, and I think that's where we should focus on. And especially, let's face it, the U.S. at this point, even though the wheel turns So there will be other more powerful nations in the future, but at this point it still is, probably the world's most powerful nation. It's also a nation that has spearheaded nature devastation, resource abuse, gluttony of all kinds, and so now it's also a nation that can spearhead, some of the solutions. And also, I think around the world, the US is seen a lot as this glutton nation that's consuming so much more so many more resources than per capita than anywhere else, any other people in the world. But at the same time, when you travel, you see a lot of people doing remarkable things, having remarkable ideas that spring from a sense of wanting to contribute to the world. And I think it's very important to show these people. You're not going to see them on mainstream TV. You're not going to see them on Fox News. So we need to find different ways to shine a spotlight on them so they can be seen, they can inspire other people, and they can give a sense that we should not despair. There's a lot of good actions going on today. Absolutely,
and that's kind of what you're focusing on with many of the vignettes that you've posted to your Facebook page, the Respectful Revolution. Stacey, while Gerard is out on the road on his motorcycle, touring the country, you're back here putting together some of these vignettes to post them on Facebook?
Well, we're hopefully going to be on the road together a lot more in the future. The road trip that Gerard just finished, it was a 2.5-month road trip from Daytona Beach, Florida to San Francisco, California on his motorcycle. He can tell you all about that. Was sort of the manifestation of an idea that we got while he was gone. He was out of the country for 15 months, as some of you are well aware of.
Right.
So from now, once we get, maybe we should back up a little bit and kind of explain what the project is. It's the Respectful Revolution is a video-based advocacy project. What we're advocating for is the idea, the notion of respect as a foundational mode of operation for all kinds of human activities, small and large, business, at home, environmentally, person to person, everything.
So where do you see it in another year from now?
So another year from now, we'll probably have 3 or 4 road trips under our belt. Right now, as a result of the initial Respectful Revolution road trip, where Gerard went out and interviewed all kinds of people doing all kinds of things with this respectful notion at sort of the core of whatever it is that they're doing. We've now got about 60 plus portraits in the can.
Wow.
From those interviews, we're creating approximately 5-minute standalone vignettes that are then getting posted to our Respectful Revolution website. So a year from now, I think we'll probably have 3 or 4 of these road trips, not 2 months in length, because we can't do that again. It was expensive and it was really long to be apart. So I think we'll have these road trips under our belt. We'll have met a lot of amazing, fantastic, wonderful people who all you have to do is open your eyes and start asking some questions. And right there in Chico, outside of Chico, all across the country, all around the world, people are seeing a problem. They're getting an idea of a different way to do something, and they're taking action.
They take it right into their own hands.
Right in their own hands, and with this idea of respect at the core of the action that they're taking. And so what we're trying to do here is to show, using video and the website, a framework within which this idea of respect exists, in the hope that people will then take it on upon themselves in their own communities and get these great ideas and do why don't I do that? Why don't I start a community garden on that plot of land that sits at the corner of our neighborhood that nobody does anything with?
So Gerard, how do you come about, how do you find the individuals? Do you just start asking questions within a community? How do you come up with your subjects?
I would say about between 2/3 and 3/4 of the people I interviewed on the road, I identified in advance, a couple of months in advance, over the internet, searching in every town I was to travel through, and I would make searches using keywords in any possible fields. It could be organic farming, urban gardening, mentoring, healthcare, crime, prevention. I mean, it can be many, many, many things that spring from a sense of respect, and almost every time you just need to have one person, sometimes one town, that really digs the idea, because then they know other people, so they can turn you on to other people.
Right.
And I would say of the people I interviewed, there's a good third where connections happen on the spot.
Really?
You meet somebody, you say, "Oh, I know this person. Come and meet this person," and
Wow.
it's a great story.
And people are really willing to talk because it's a feel good thing. You're talking about wonderful things happening in their communities, and
It's a feel-good project, Rick.
yeah, it is. So I think people are probably really, really welcome to
And
talking to you.
And I think you feel when you do something, and sometimes you feel a bit alone. Nobody really pays attention. So somebody comes and really
Is
in a sense,
interested.
honors what you're doing,
Right.
and then brings it online so that people can see it. Hundreds, thousands, even millions potentially of people can see what they're doing. It's something that value your work and bring it to a new level, because now you can inspire other people.
Right.
Your
Right.
work can be multiplied.
Because a lot of these people, probably most all of these people that we're talking to, it's not an ego-driven thing that they're
Right.
doing. It's not about getting their name
Notoriety.
out there. No,
Yeah, not at all.
it's really about making the world a better place.
Well, I think the project as a whole is not only a wonderful thing, but I think its shape is a little different than we're used to. Just how it's being presented, and
Everyone keeps telling Gerard they can't wait to see his film,
yeah,
and we're like,
And, it's
it's not exactly.
that's not what you're in after this time,
It's
are
a
you?
It's a new
website.
era. It's a new era. I think people want to see short format because
Mhm.
we're all so busy. There's so much going on. Sometimes it's easy to devote a few minutes, but
Mhm.
maybe not an hour and a
Yeah.
half. And most people now watch programs, all kind of video content on internet
Right.
as opposed to television. So I think this is a medium for the day.
And we'll see. I mean, we got this idea while Gerard was gone.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of respect, and how so many of the world's problems are in large part due to a lack of respect, or at
Mhm.
least really couldn't exist in the way that they do now if true mutual authentic respect was injected into the situation.
Right.
They just wouldn't, right? So not only our own situation that we were in at the time, where we a lot of the time felt quite disrespected,
Mm-hmm.
we just started talking like on a larger scale. Every problem that we could bullies at school,
Sure.
environmental degradation, people driving like crazy people on the road. I mean, it's just like, what if you injected those problems with a really hearty dose of respect? What would happen? Would some of them go
the
away?
outcome would be completely different.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe they couldn't even exist.
Right.
Those problems. So
Now, if I may just quickly interject, as much of our audience understands what you're talking about when you say that Gerard was away, but there will be those who don't understand. Gerard went to visit his mother in Paris, where he grew up, in and around Paris, and suddenly found some roadblocks in getting back to the United States. I, for one, thought, oh no, I hope he's not having some backlash from some of the work that he's done.
right.
But in my conversation with Gerard recently, you assure me that you feel that there are people with much bigger problems than you had getting through customs and through
Immigration.
and that it wasn't that way at all.
No, I think it's a very it's a difficult machine. It's a machine without a soul, without heart, and just it operates on a multitude of technicalities.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game,
Yeah.
and if somehow you violated even unknowingly one of the rules of it. Of
You
this
don't cross
game.
your T or dot your I or something.
Yeah. I mean, it can be sometimes extremely. I've seen stories of people being blocked, families like a child, a case of a 3-year-old child who was not let into the country with his family, American citizens, because the child was born overseas and they didn't fill up a proper paperwork in the consulate where the child was born.
They felt like they had, but they
Yeah, and we did it later. I mean, something was not done exactly as it should have done.
Protocol.
And therefore, at the border one day when they had come back and forth a few times.
At the airport.
The child was recognized as a dangerous terrorist and was stopped.
A 3-year-old dangerous terrorist.
Yeah. And the family, actually, the father to go back, and spend time, in this case, in France. That's how I heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
And spend about 6 months plus waiting for the child's situation to be corrected. So
Yeah,
it's
we
terrible.
could do a whole nother show
Sure.
on immigration.
Right. Well, I just kind of wanted to bring our listeners up to date with that situation.
So that cost us 15 months.
15 months.
And a lot of money, and with.
And I thought, how terrible
we
this.
were really
that was
lucky
just
to
an
get.
awful thing to happen. And Gerard said, "Well, you know what? I spent some great time with my mom."
Yeah, and again, the help that came from our friends or our family in Chico a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and elsewhere. I mean, the rounding up and the support was absolutely outstanding, and that shows you sometimes you feel alone, and then you have this kind of situation that shows you that you're not alone.
Yeah,
and that in itself was an amazing experience.
Well, I love the project. I've been talking
Thanks,
about
Rick.
it from time to time here on Run the Gamut to try to get people steered in that direction. Give out the website.
It is www, obviously, respectfulrevolution.org.
Respectfulrevolution.org.
And I might just add, if I may.
Oh, you may.
We've entered into a new partnership with North Valley Community Fund. They've agreed to sponsor us as a nonprofit
Excellent.
organization.
Excellent.
So people will be able to make tax-exempt donations to the Respectful Revolution.
Fantastic.
Which that's going to be our next big push after now that the editing's really getting rolling and
Mhm.
stuff. Fundraising is going to be our next big issue.
Yeah, this is a bit how we roll. We have maybe a couple more months of oxygen, and we have no fear. We just throw everything we have in that project to make it happen, to make it grow, but after that we're gonna run dry.
Yeah.
And so for the project to be able to continue, we're gonna have to rely a lot on donations.
Well, let's rely on the universe to make a project with the merits of this one, Respectful Revolution. Let's rely on the universe to come through here.
Yes, thank you, Rick.
Good things by good people.
It feels like it wants it to be.
I think you're headed in the right direction. I thank you for the work that you're doing here, and I know that it in itself is not a glorification. You don't get much, except the now and then. Hey, I saw that vignette. That was wonderful. That's about it for you guys. So it's a lot of work and coming from your heart.
It's a lot of work. It's positive, right? Like we said, it's
absolutely.
It's something that feels good, and it feels really, really good to go out and find these people and focus on the amazing positive actions that are taking place all around us instead of focusing on problems.
Before we wrap up, give me one example of someone that really struck you, and
I know who.
I'm putting you on the spot here.
I know who I would mention. Okay, there is this guy that we met in northern New Mexico. By the way, if you've ever been to northern Mexico, it is stunningly beautiful. His name is Iqsim Salam, and he comes from the Maldives Islands, which is maybe the smallest national community. I'm not sure, but they're the lowest lying.
Oh, yeah.
And so climate change is really
high priority.
Because if the water rises, they're gone,
right.
Literally. And so this young man, he's 20, came to school in northern New Mexico. His dream all his life was to ride a horse. There are no horses in the Maldives Islands, evidently. And he really wanted to learn to ride a horse. He has since not only learned to ride a horse, he's become a full-on cowboy.
Wow.
And is throwing himself heart and soul into learning and preaching all about sustainable cattle ranching.
That's fantastic.
Which is a huge endeavor in this country. he lives right on the western edge of the Great Plains of the United States, which have been decimated by nonstop grazing methods.
Right.
And so he is just this vibrant, passionate, really special guy. And we interviewed him in the middle of this big field, and all his cows were behind him. I cannot wait to edit that. He was one of my favorites.
So
just to listen to him talk.
www.respectfulrevolution is where you can go to see some of these vignettes that have been completed at this point, and look for more to come.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you very much for
you,
stopping by. I think it's a great project, and my hat's off to you both.
Thank you very much.